Super Smash Bros. Is a game series where all of your favorite Nintendo characters are gathered together to beat the ever-living snot out of each other with wacky items, stage hazards, and wave dashing. The latest entry in the series is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is a game that contains 70+ characters. And while all these characters are constantly being ranked in tier lists on their competitive viability, I thought I'd rank them on how good their single-player content is. Each fighter has a unique classic mode where they fight 6 rounds of opponents plus a bonus stage and then have a final fight against a boss. I've went and played through every single classic mode. Now most classic modes are bad. They're usually some sort of boring set of characters like, all these characters have counters, or all these characters have wings, or whatever, it doesn't matter. So I went through and found what I considered to be the 10 best classic modes, one that offer a little bit more than the usual classic experience. I won't be counting any DLC characters, since when more characters come out, they could potentially have an advantage and make this list obsolete. So this is just the base roster. It should go without saying, but here I go saying it anyways, this video is just my opinion based on my experiences and my own feelings about these classic modes. So your top 10 list can be different. My list isn't the end-all be-all, but it's close. Anywho, here we go, top 10 classic modes in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Toon Link. You play with 2 other Toon Links and it's a reference to Triforce Heroes, or you can pretend it's 4 swords, but then there would be 4 links, not 3, whatever you want. It's a unique classic mode with all those other characters being on screen. It makes the number 10 slot because of its uniqueness. Because, in all honesty, fighting with all these characters kinda sucks. But you have a final fight against Ganondorf and then fight his big boy form from Ocarina of Time, which is a pretty cool boss. It can only be damaged by hitting its tail, it's cute, it's unique, and it references a game the characters came from. It's not particularly fantastic or interesting, there's no references or anything like that really thrown throughout it, but this is the only classic mode we get to play with so many characters on screen over and over again. And I'm going to give Toon Link the number 10 spot because of that. Number 9 is Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong's Journey is a King Kong reference, and I think it's pretty well done, honestly. You start in the jungle levels, then take a plane over to the city, then fight through some city levels until you get to the video game equivalent to the Empire State Building. Once there, you fight Master Hand at the top of the building, just like King Kong does. The references are all in the stages that are selected, and maybe King K. Rool representing a dinosaur, or maybe Falcon and Wario being Adrian Brody and Jack Black. But I doubt it. Master Hand / Master Hand plus Crazy Hand is the worst boss battle in the game, which is a shame, because like almost the entire roster has to fight those two. But this is one of the only times you fight the hands with a different background than just normal FD. Donkey Kong had a basic, average classic mode that uses the stages to reference a famous story, and I think they succeed with the references, which makes it a unique and fun classic mode. Very few classic modes tell the story through the stages, and I really wanted to highlight this. Again, it's only number 9, but this is what puts it above the others. Number 8 is Marth. Okay, so Marth's classic mode is fine. You fight a bunch of dragons and Mii fighters. It's fine, it's whatever, it's fine. A lot of classic modes have fight insert generic type of fighter here classic modes. The reason I picked Marth is because he gets to fight the Rathalos. And you can interchange any of the Rathalos fighters for Marth, but I do think Marth has the best selection of opponents. But unfortunately, the Rathalos being the best fight has some of the worst classic modes leading up to it. It is hands down the best boss fight in the game though, if not the whole series. Visually, it looks really cool, it has some unique attacks, but all of its attacks reference the game. It has attacks that can poison you, just like in Monster Hunter. It has an enraged state, an assortment of fire and aerial attacks, but the real thing that puts it over the edge is the item usage. So in Monster Hunter, you gotta use these blinding darts and these traps against the big monsters you try to hunt, assumedly. And you can blind the Rathalos by using a Deku Nut, and you can trap the monster by placing a whatever that exclamation point ball is on the ground. And I think that item usage and the unique attacks the Rathalos have really lead to the fight being incredibly engaging and like really deserving, I think, of being the best boss fight. There's just so much going on and it's so cool, and since I finally played a Monster Hunter game, I get to see all this super cool stuff, and I mean, that's why, listen, Marth, his classic mode is not good. No one who fights the Rathalos has a good classic mode, but the Rathalos is such a good fight that it can carry any of those characters to just be above Toon Link and Donkey Kong. But it doesn't get it higher than that. It's 8th place for sure. The number 7 spot goes to Game & Watch. The theme of Game & Watch is that you're going through a bunch of old games, from Kirby's first release on the Game Boy, to the original Donkey Kong, then Duck Hunt, and so on. It's a nice theme and it feels very on brand. Game & Watch as a character is a reference to those older Game & Watch games, and having a classic mode which is also a reference to older games is fitting. It's a simple concept, executed pretty well. Unfortunately, it ends with a Master Hand fight. You could argue that the Master Hand fight is also a callback to the original Smash 64, but I don't know, it probably isn't. Either way, the lineup of characters, stages, and themes are all good enough to warrant a number 7 spot for me. Number 6 is Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic's classic mode is full of references to his other games, opening on Green Hill where he fights a fox, Tails reference, going into a dark city while fighting against a giant metal Sonic with Open Your Heart playing. This is probably a Chaos reference, but it could also be referring to the mechanical Sonic from Sonic 2. I think everyone's kind of agreeing that it's Chaos. Then you get to the Sonic Colors reference, Secret Rings, and finally Lost World. The classic mode does a good job of using fighters, stages, and music to represent Sonic's other games, which makes it a great classic mode. Again, it's lame that we get another Master Hand fight, but literally everything before it is just a good experience. The only thing keeping this down at number 6 is the lame final fight. Number 5, Jigglypuff. Jiggly is really nostalgic for me. Her classic mode has you fighting the original cast of characters from the original Super Smash Bros. For 64, and you fight them all on Smash 64 stages. It's a fun, nostalgic romp that really hits home for me. I can remember sitting in my basement trying to land on all the platforms and break all the targets, and the real icing on the cake is the final boss. Versus Giant Donkey Kong, which is an awesome fight since Giant Donkey Kong was always in the original single player mode. It's cool, it's fun. This classic mode has some nitpicks like how it's kinda lame that they just shove a bunch of characters together on a stage, but all in all, it's a great mode. Gosh, I love this single player. It's just such a good theme and executed so well. I've never played Bayonetta, but after playing through her classic mode, I had to look up what exactly was going on. If I had played the series, it might have put her higher, honestly. All of her fights are references to enemies from her games, fighting angels and demons and dragons. The stages also visibly show her ascending up higher and higher until Bayonetta arrives at what I can only infer to be heaven, where she fights a bunch of angels, and her final boss is a giant Palutena, which I think is supposed to be the big goddess boss fought at the end of the first game. I'm a big fan of the references, and I really wish I understood them, but I'm not going to deny a classic mode is justice just because I personally don't get the references. According to the internet, all the fighters are references. I also really like how the stage escalation and elevation works, and I love me a final boss that is something unique, character specific, and series referring. All of the thought put into this classic mode is certainly deserving of being, at the very least, number 4 on the list. Number 3, Ryu. Ryu is the only fighter who does stamina battles for his classic mode. That alone already puts Ryu in the top 10. You fight stamina battles on a bunch of different Final Destination stages, and it's a good time. But what puts Ryu in the top 3 of classic modes is definitely the character references. I think they did the best with what they had. You know, Ken is Ken, but Zero Suit Samus is Chun-Li, Green Donkey Kong is Blanca, and Incineroar is Zangief. It's all good fun. The Smash fighters sort of represent the Street Fighter fighters. And in case you're like me and bad at recognizing Street Fighter characters, each character's specific music track from the series plays during each stage. So then you can go, oh, that makes sense. Meta Knight's the guy with the claw and the mask. I get it. I see you, Smash Brothers. It's a fun classic mode, and it was cool seeing the other Street Fighter characters represented in Smash Bros. In the best way they could be. The final fight is Master Hand, but you get Ken as an assist, which makes the hand fight way less annoying. It's not a great ending, but the theme of the fighting on Final Destination maps is cool, the music references are great, and the character representation is great, and all the stamina fighting is really fun and different. And I mean, hey, every now and again, you just gotta play a stamina match or two, you know? Sitting so close to number 1, in the second spot, Megaman. Megaman hangs out at number 2. His classic mode consists of running around fighting Smash characters who are supposed to represent certain Mega Man Robo Masters. I'm not super familiar with Mega Man, but I think they did a pretty good job. The music helps indicate who some of the characters are supposed to be, but all in all, they did fine. I like how, at the end, we fight the Yellow Devil on the Wily stage while a bunch of Mega Mans fight, you know, kind of representing that sort of boss rush at the end of Mega Man games. And then we get a big fight against a big robot boss, who I'd like to think represents a big robot Wily fight or a big mini boss that Mega Man games are known for. Finally ending with a fight against Dr. Mario, who very obviously represents the Mad Doctor himself. What is super cool about all this actually is when you beat Dr. Mario, the music changes and then Mewtwo appears. This is a reference to the Mega Man 2 fight where you end up fighting an alien at the end. It's such a good reference, and I love how the music changes in-game. It might be the only time the music actually changes mid-fight. I think the references are great. I think the music is awesome. A boss that's not the Master Hands, and a final encounter that is just such an awesome reference to the Mega Man series, as well as just being really fun to play. Mega Man being at number 2 is not a disservice. It's so good. It's such a good classic mode that only one thing can possibly rival it and beat it. Number 1, the best classic mode goes to Simon Belmont. The creative theme of it all is really, really cool. Just look at the other top picks on this list. Every encounter in Simon Belmont's classic mode is a reference to enemies from the Castlevania series. You open up against a merman and a shadow panther, or warg, could be one of the two, then fight the fire drake. Some folks believe it to be a giant bat, and it could be either, but Giant Ridley does shoot fireballs, so it's really up in the air. You fight a harpy and fleaman from the clock tower levels of Rondo of Blood / Symphony of the Night, or Camilla / Hector, but I like my theory better since it takes place on a stage with clocks falling all around. Then, you fight Slagra and Gabon. I never really learned these characters' names. In the cathedral setting, which is where you fight them in Symphony of the Night. And the next fight is kind of up in the air, but I like to think that you fight the Minotaur, Death, and Shaft, but it really could be any number of interpretations. Then finally, you get to the top of Dracula's castle, where you fight a possessed Richter Belmont, just like in Symphony of the Night, after which is a double-phase boss against Dracula himself, using the Rondo of Blood final fight. While not all the references are 100% clear, it is clear that they are all references. Simon's campaign is just plain fun, having some of the most rockin' music alongside fights that really invoke that Castlevania feel. You fight on more than just Final Destination, you fight against a variety of different enemies, and you have a final boss that is directly related to the game. And the stages are set up to make it feel like you're entering Dracula's castle and climbing all the way to the top to put an end to the Dark Count. It's just so well done. What really makes this classic mode so good is that it does almost all the things that every other classic mode mentioned before does, but all at once. Donkey Kong, Simon's mode uses the stages to convey a narrative of moving up in a connected world. Like so many other characters mentioned, it has enemies and boss encounters referenced, if not just flat out reenacted from the series. Like Ryu and Mega Man, it uses great music to convey enemies and keep the tone of the mood consistent. And like good old Marth, it ends with a really good final boss encounter. It all ends up to be a very solid and extremely enjoyable single player experience. And for all of those reasons, that's why Simon Belmont is my number 1 pick for best classic mode in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And there you have it. That's my top 10 Smash classic mode list. I know a lot of people aren't going to care about it, and it's fine. There's really not a lot of classic modes worth caring about. Some of them are just fun because you get to play fun characters, and sometimes they try to do cool and interesting things, like Mewtwo or Joker have interesting concepts, but overall, I feel like these are the ones that you get all the references to, that when you're playing it, you can really enjoy it. I feel like you get a lot of fun and interesting different dynamics with these 10 than you do from just, you fight a lot of dinosaurs, you fight people who use swords, you fight just random characters because they have like command grabs, I don't know, something stupid. These are the 10 that do a little bit more than that. And for me, it made it a lot more enjoyable to sit down and play through and go, oh, that's that character from that game. Oh man, this is just like, oh, that's Chun-Li from Street Fighter. That's cute. Oh my god, giant Donkey Kong, that's amazing. Oh, it's just like the clock tower from Rondo of Blood. You know, like this really fun, sort of exciting stuff. And there are references for other characters in other classic modes. And some other classic modes are really good, but for me, these are the ones that really sort of stood out. I had a lot of fun making this list, that hopefully it inspires people who watch it to just go out and try some classic modes. They're definitely not better than playing Smash against human beings, but they are like a fun break and they take like less than 10 minutes each. It's a pretty good time. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what some of your favorite classic modes are, or not, whatever. And, you know, take it easy. Have a good one.